Silence. All stand. Ladies and gentlemen, the proclamation. All persons having any business before this honourable court, please draw nigh, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Queen.
Admission of lawyers. Matthew Lawrence Allen.
May it please the court, I move that Matthew Lawrence Allen be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Matthew Lawrence Allen be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Elizabeth Lukic Bruce.
May it please the court, I move that Elizabeth Lukic Bruce be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Elizabeth Lukic Bruce be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Joshua K. Lotto.
May it please the court, I move that Joshua K. Lotto be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Joshua K. Lotto be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Christine Emily Capolino.
May it please the court, I move that Christine Emily Capolino be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Christine Emily Capolino be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Noel Nitish Chandra.
May it please the court, I move that my brother, Noel Nitish Chandra, be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Noel Nitish Chandra be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Chen Chen.
May it please the court, I move that Chen Chen be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Chen Chen be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Michael Wei Yu Cheng.
May it please the court, I move that Michael Cheng be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Michael Wei Yu Cheng be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Matthew John Clifford.
May it please the court, I move that my cousin Matthew John Clifford be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Matthew John Clifford be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Kimberly Cotter.
May it please the court, I move that Kimberly Cotter be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Kimberly Cotter be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Lan Ding.
May it please the court, I move that Lan Ding be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Lan Ding be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Aminé Ilkson Gockman.
May it please the court, I move that Aminé Ilson Gockman be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Aminé Ilson Gockman be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Talara Ebony Hamilton Huckman.
May it please the court, I move that Talara Ebony Hamilton Huckman be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Talara Ebony Hamilton Huckman be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Dennis Yijo He.
May it please the court, I move that Dennis Yija be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Dennis Yija He be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Ying Huang.
May it please the court, I move that Huing Yang Huang be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Ying Wang be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Alicia Yuanyi Li.
May it please the court, I move that Alicia Huan Yi Li be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Alicia Wanyi Lee be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Johanna Gabriel Lowe.
May it please the court, I move that my friend and colleague Johanna Gabriel Lowe be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Johanna Gabriel Lowe be admitted as a lawyer of this court. It will be necessary for the purpose of an oath or an affirmation that all those admitted today please stand up but remain in your current places. Could all admittees please stand?
Matthew Lawrence Allen. Elizabeth Lukic Bruce. Joshua K. Lotto. Christine Emily Capolino. Noel Nitish Chandra. Chen Chen. Michael Wei Yu Cheng. Matthew John Clifford. Kimberly Cotter. Lan Ding. Aminé Ilkson Gockman. Talara Ebony Hamilton Huckman. Dennis Yijo He. Ying Huang. Alicia Yuanyi Li. Johanna Gabriel Lowe. Do you severally swear or declare and affirm that you will truly and honestly conduct yourselves in the practice of a lawyer of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, and that you will faithfully serve as such in the administration of the laws and usages of this state according to the best of your knowledge, skill and ability? Please say together either, "So help me God," or "I do."
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Now that the formal part of the proceedings has ended, I'd like to warmly welcome you to the Supreme Court of New South Wales. Present with me on the bench today to my right is Justice Campbell, who is a member of the Common Law Division of the Court, and to my left, Justice Kuntz, who is a member of the Equity Division. Together, we constitute the court that has, in exercise of its jurisdiction, admitted you to practice. As we gather here today, I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. We recognise the long-standing and enduring customs and traditions of Australia's First Nations and acknowledge with deep regret the role our legal system has had in perpetrating many injustices against Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. To all new lawyers here today, welcome to the legal profession. Today is a day for celebration. You've all worked extremely hard to get here, through caffeine-fueled nights and obscure problem questions, reading countless wafer-thin pages of textbooks and more cases than you can ever hope to remember. Rest assured, for those of you with a bibliophobia, that is a fear of running out of reading material, as lawyers, that fear will never materialise. You have entered the world of eggshell skulls, encountered the mysterious reasonable person, and have understood the Constitution consists of so much more than just the vibe of the thing. In becoming a lawyer, you have today joined a centuries-old profession with ancient origins. The custom of advocates swearing an admission oath dates back to the 12th century. This court first admitted lawyers to practice in 1824, and by 1830, the names of lawyers were entered onto rolls in this state. You have now become part of this tradition almost 200 years later. Perhaps for some of you, or your family and friends, that's how long it feels like you've been studying. On that note, I'm also pleased to welcome those of you today, those with you today, or watching on the live stream. For many of you, the support of your family and friends will have been invaluable. No doubt, from time to time, they have also been on the receiving end of your finely polished skills of argument and persuasion. I do hope you take the time to thank them today. The oath or affirmation you have made today is a serious one and deserves solemn regard. Whether you work in private practice, at the bar, or at a community legal centre, you should be known for your honesty, your integrity, and your commitment to justice. It is an acknowledgement of this weighty responsibility that we observe today's unique formalities, including the moving of lawyers, swearing of oaths, and even our somewhat strange choice of fashion. I do recall on an occasion some years ago, a young member of the audience asked if we were doing Santa photos after the ceremony. I was very sorry to disappoint. However, although we mark this occasion with formality and tradition, not everything in the legal profession remains unchanging. You'll be unsurprised to learn that last year we had to adapt quite a bit. COVID-19 meant a rapid shift to increase use of virtual courtroom setups and technology to ensure access to justice continued in the midst of a pandemic. Things didn't always go smoothly, as those with me on the bench can undoubtedly attest to. There have been real difficulties to grapple with in terms of open justice, effective communication, and fairness to participants. And occasionally, a lawyer might even get stuck behind a Zoom kitten filter. But for all the challenges we faced, the impetus is greater than ever before for us to prioritise flexibility and accessibility. Better use of technology and increased working from home arrangements have profound implications for how our legal system interacts with many people, including those in rural or remote areas, those with a disability, medical conditions, or carers' responsibilities. As the newest members of the profession, you are at the forefront of innovation in the law and have a unique opportunity to see through changes so that justice is done openly and equitably. There are, of course, other changes that deserve attention. When we think of the diversity of the legal profession, we encounter the duality that we have come very far, but much still needs to be done. Though women were originally not permitted to practice, since 2018, women have made up more than half of all the solicitors with a practising certificate in New South Wales and currently make up 83% of solicitors under the age of 30. Women occupy many of the most senior positions in the profession, including, of course, the Chief Justice of Australia. However, women continue to face challenges of representation, including amongst judges of this court and, for example, amongst barristers in speaking roles in the High Court of Australia. By contrast, it is heartening to see that the local court of New South Wales has almost achieved gender parity amongst magistrates, but we must not be complacent about these issues. There are other notable diversity concerns that we must face head-on. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and people from diverse cultural backgrounds continue to be alarmingly underrepresented in the legal profession, and particularly within the judiciary and the ranks of senior counsel. We must also be alert to barriers to the profession for people from less privileged backgrounds. Law should not be a profession for the wealthy, and the idea that students may be dissuaded from the profession but by the cost and expense is something that is troubling. Not just this, but we'll only achieve a truly diverse profession when barriers to advancement are broken down and people from different backgrounds are properly supported in a collegiate and inclusive environment free from harassment and discrimination. These issues are fundamental to a just and transparent legal system and to the legitimacy of the rule of law. We need diverse representation amongst advocates and judges so that all people who become involved in our justice system can be properly heard and fairly engaged with by a system reflective of our broader community. Despite these challenges, there is real scope for change. There is a far greater diversity of background amongst junior lawyers than those who have been around for as long as me. You only need to look around the courtroom at your fellow admittees and then at the paintings on the wall to see that this is undoubtedly the case. You are in a unique position as new lawyers who are entering the profession at a time when more than ever your words and actions are having an impact for good. You are being heard and taken seriously when you agitate to correct injustices, whether it's speaking out about unsustainable working cultures, sexual harassment or bullying within the profession, unfair laws or systemic failings affecting our society's most vulnerable. I urge you to continue to speak up for those things. They do matter. You are the future of the profession and will steer the direction it will take. As a lawyer, you will also need to make difficult ethical decisions at times. With regard to our personal characteristics, lawyers have been the butt of jokes for centuries. Some would say, of course, there are only a handful of lawyer jokes, the rest are true stories. But jokes aside, you must use the tools that you have developed to think critically and not compromise on your fundamental duties to the court and the administration of justice and the other ethical duties you must uphold. Now that you are lawyers, you can get paid for arguing instead of just arguing for free. Of course, there is a lot more to it than that. You're an advisor, a problem solver, a mediator, and an advocate for the marginalised. As you go about your day-to-day work, remember that you're not dealing with the law in a vacuum as a series of abstract concepts, but law as it applies to people's lives. For this reason, you must strive to deliver legal services competently and fearlessly, with courtesy and integrity. Justice Gageler, before he was a High Court judge, once said, "You must be prepared to give the same answers to the same questions for the same reason, no matter who asks the question or for what purpose or in what context the asking may occur." That is foundational to the rule of law. For those of you who will practice law, the way you communicate information to others will have profound consequences for access to justice. For a non-lawyer, law is often incomprehensible. One of your roles as a lawyer will be to make law accessible to others, sometimes by deciphering legal complexities, other times by deciphering poor legal drafting, and sometimes both. One thing you will regrettably strike throughout your career is legislation which seems to be carefully crafted with the sole object of ensuring that no one can understand it. Your task is not just to understand it, but to explain it clearly to those whose rights and interests are affected by it. As lawyers, we must not keep the law locked up as something knowable only to us. A client reading your advice should be empowered to understand your meaning, not mystified and confused. So be clear and concise in your writing and your speaking. Plain English is powerful. Consider, do I really need to say aforementioned or herewith? Must I sprinkle in that Latin phrase? Should I really use double negatives, tautologies, and wordy clauses that take up a whole page? I suggest the answer to those questions is plainly no. The best advocates can make their points simply and succinctly. Now, I must confess that some of the most experienced lawyers and judges from time to time could use that reminder, but don't pick up their bad habits. I also want to speak about failure. I would not be surprised if there were quite a few high overachievers and perfectionists in the room today. Even so, at various points of your career, you will make mistakes, some minor, some more serious. When you do make mistakes, your commitment to honesty, integrity, and the administration of justice means that you must take responsibility, correct what you can, and learn from those errors. You must fail at times in order to grow. What is important is that you try not to make the same mistake twice. I myself have made many mistakes over the year, too many to remember, although from time to time my colleagues are anxious to remind me of them. Even as Chief Justice, my decisions have on occasions been successfully appealed to the High Court. When that happens, I simply grit my teeth and remind myself it's not just a legal fiction that the High Court is infallible, but sometimes even the High Court decisions get overturned. Finally, I want to emphasise that your mental health is extremely important. This may sound unexpected, this type of ceremony, but the law is not everything. There may be times when you feel overwhelmed, disheartened, burnt out or distressed. If you do, you should not be afraid to seek professional help or to take a step back when you need to. Also remember, the law is a collegiate profession, and in times of difficulty, the support of your peers will prove invaluable. I found that out throughout my practicing career. Although you might find it hard to believe, I was admitted quite a long time ago. I lost my first case, and I lost many more after that. Throughout my 35 years in practice, however, I could always count on the other barristers in my chambers to share my disappointment at the unfairness of the verdict, the sly tactics of opposing counsel, and most often, I regret to say, the obtuseness of the judge or judges before whom I was appearing. And I hasten to add, I don't include either of my fellow judges on the bench in that comment. Finally, on behalf of all the judges of the Supreme Court, and particularly those on the bench with me today, I once again congratulate you on your admission and warmly welcome you to the legal profession. The court will now adjourn.
All stand.